When the band pulled into an oceanside motel in San Francisco late that night, Brad wanted to keep on celebrating.
He'd asked me if I was going to go out and party with him, and I just wasn't into it. I was tired and didn't want to egg him on or support him in using.
Brad stayed out all night, and the next morning, with the beach ablaze in sunshine, he barged in to wake up his bandmates and tell them about the 10-foot waves that were breaking offshore.
He said, "Hey, get up, let's take Louie down to the beach. It's beautiful out, and I was just hungover, and it's convenient." I just flicked him off and go away, and fell back asleep.
I was hungover as could be. I was not gonna get up. He's like, "Mikey, you gotta see this. You're gonna trip. It's incredible. Can't you hear it?" You could just hear it. Boom. I was like, "Oh man, come get me later."
No one knows for sure what happened next, but it's believed that Brad walked down to the beach with Louie and took in the scenery. Then Brad headed back to the hotel room he was sharing with Bud. He reached into his stash and shot up one last time.
When I woke up, Brad was laying on the bed, and he had his feet on the floor and he was undressed, and I kind of started laughing, you must have had a good time. You couldn't even make it all the way into bed. I didn't hear him snoring or any groaning from his hangover or anything, and Lou Dog was curled up on the end of the bed, kind of whimpering, looking really sad. And so I got up and noticed he had a film around his mouth, some yellow and white foamy mucus, and instantly I knew, that he'd overdosed.
Bud called for help, but by the time the paramedics arrived, it was too late. On the morning of May 25th, 1996, 28-year-old Bradley Knoll was pronounced dead.
They were like, "He's gone, man." That's that. End of story.
Back home in Long Beach, the phone rang just as Brad's father and stepmother were preparing to take their grandson, Jacob, on a picnic.
We were just getting ready to walk out the door, and we got a telephone call. And I knew as soon as Jim just completely fell apart.
Of course, it's the worst thing that can happen to you, and the most painful thing that can happen to you, to have to go through that kind of grief. I mean, it's debilitating. You can't even stand up. Of course, the worst part is having to tell everybody,
I heard his voice, and he just said that Brad was dead. I'll never forget the moment. First, it's a disbelief, but Jim was crying, and he just sounded devastated. It's probably the worst sound in the whole world.
I remember my first reaction was just being pissed. I was so mad at him. I wanted him there to yell at him, to knock him around, you're so stupid, why did you do that? Even though the whole time we were together, he flirted with death, you're never prepared for it actually happening.
For Troy, who had seen Brad through the worst of his heroin addiction, his death was a heartbreaking blow. But she has come to see it as the end of a long and painful struggle.
Heroin addiction's not like any other addiction. It's a uphill battle for the rest of your life. And he wasn't strong enough to fight it. And he was just tired of fighting it. But what brings me peace is knowing in my heart that he just went to sleep. He was just tired. He had finished everything he needed to do in his life, and it was time for him to go.
On On June 1st, 1996, Brad Knoll's family and friends gathered in Long Beach, California to say goodbye. After the memorial service, his closest friends took a portion of his ashes down to his favorite surfing spot.
Went down to Surfside, where he was living, and lit a bunch of torches and went out on the beach, and the guys put on their wetsuits and paddled out and scattered his ashes.
So it was like they all got to release a part of Brad and say goodbye to Brad in their own way.
Brad's overdose had left Sublime without a lead singer, his wife Troy without a husband, and most tragically, his 11-month-old son Jacob without a father.
There was so much that Jacob could have learned from him, and that's where I feel the loss, is when it comes to Jacob. Jacob won't ever have any memories of his dad, won't know his dad. And that's the saddest thing.
That morning at about 4 a.m., from what I understand, Brad tried calling to speak to me, and Blaine said he tried to wake me up, and I couldn't wake up.
Z-Man, Brad's on the phone. Z-Man, Brad, he wants to talk to you. And I might have gotten a little bit of this, but for the most part, he was semi-unresponsive. He wasn't moving. What was Brad gonna say to Z-Man? Who knows, maybe things would have been different, maybe they wouldn't.
Maybe he just wanted to see me. Maybe he just wanted to be with someone. You start to run that stuff through your head. I don't blame myself for his passing, but I sure beat the shit out of myself. I beat myself up for a long time over it. In fact, for a lot of years. Yeah, for a lot of years. Now that I think about it.
Todd was inconsolable. Todd was buried in sorrow over that.
It's still, to this day, numbing to think about that day and that moment and all the things, the tiny things we could have done differently that might have changed things, but you can't change history, you can't change reality, and it's 20 years now and it still hurts just as much.
I think people who are looking to do drugs need to consider is the effect they have not only on themselves, but to everybody who loves them.
After the show, we're all just hanging out at this point. The guys are loading all the equipment out.
As loaded as I was in my rental car.
I hear the engine start, and I look over and I see Todd put it into gear, and instead of going backwards, he goes forward and smashes into the side of the building. And I said, I'm driving us back.
In the back seat, it was myself and Brad, and then there was Eric and Bud. We're all squeezed in the back.
There was that Everclear song that was the big hit at the time, and had the radio playing, and that song came on the radio. Brad said something to the extent of, "This is mine and Troy's favorite song. God, I miss my wife."
And I remember how Brad was saying that he just missed his kid and he missed his wife. And that was the last I talked to him.
I woke up that next morning and I seen Lou Dog on the bed. The bed was still made, the pillows were up there, and Brad was laying naked on the bed with his feet hanging off the end, just like this on his back. And I looked at him and he was just stiff and pale. And then there was all this bile, dried up bile crusted around his mouth. It was all blue. It was cold. I freaked out. I just tried to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. I was like, dude, breathe. Grabbed the phone wasn't turned on, threw it out the window, ran downstairs, yelling, screaming, call 911, I need an ambulance, crying falling down the street, fucking, I think it was either Miguel or my brother. I can't even remember. I was in shock completely. That's where it, you know, after seeing him with that shit on his face, cold and blue and dead, I don't, everything's fuzzy and hazy after that point. I remember crying and running down the street, just flailing. Couldn't believe it.
I look at it first like we lost someone that we love. We lost a friend, a brother. He was newly married, he was a husband, and most importantly, he was a father.
I think we were all just trying to not believe, you know, what it was, and we were all drinking heavily, and it was just fucked. It's a very sad day.
It was like the bluest moment in my life ever. We just lost our best friend. You know? It was over. Nothing I could do about it. Just, I mean, like that fast. It was just gone. Wake up and he's gone.
It's definitely affected my life and taken a lot of joy out of it. And I think, you know, how many people have to go down the street getting emotional, you know? It's and you always think, well, you know, it's been 20 years now, and it'll fade. And people say, oh, you have to have closure and all this kind of thing. There's no such thing as closure, you know, no such thing. You know, it's something that is going to be with me till the day I die, you know. We only have so much control over this situation, and what is going to be is going to be. But still, it doesn't prepare you for it.
Gracias a la vida que me ha dado tanto, me ha dado el sonido y el abecedario con las palabras que pienso y declaro. Madre, amigo, hermano, y luz alumbrando la ruta del alma del que estoy amando.
You are my most precious memory of him and our love. I'll always be strong and here for you. You are the most important thing in my life, and I get through all the sad and lonely times only because I know that we have each other, and that's all we need, love. One heart, Mom.